Hey everyone, this is the best of 5 finals from the AlphaX Red Cross tournament, I want to say. It was a tournament they did for charity, in which the replays were being sold for $5, and part of it also went to the charity. So, pretty awesome of them to do it, and then let the replays be sent out as well. And of course, the best thing is that these were done on the new maps and the new patch. So that's officially out on the ladder as of the time of this recording, but this is the same exact scenario, so it shouldn't be anything different that way. So we still get to learn more about what we can see in PvT for the new patch, and it's between two amazing players. In the top right of Royal Blood, we do have herO, and in the bottom left, it is the blue Terran Byun. Why do people play on their barcodes in tournaments? I'm pretty sure the #1 reason is laziness. That they have all their hotkeys configured. They might have even been warming up on the accounts and then played it. Some of them do not have named accounts, I think is another issue, actually. If you see named accounts from some people, it's because the tournament provided it for them. Or I think is what happens. They can also, of course, make a new account, but then they have to go through all the ranked bullshit and whatnot. So, two-parter. But as long as they put their clan tag in, then usually the mods, the admins of the tournament, do not mind. It's more about kind of perpetuating anonymity, I think, is the issue. So if you refuse to tell them who you are, that's what really raises red flags. So it's a bit annoying for us, the caster and the viewer, because we have to constantly reiterate that this is herO. God forbid we put text on obs, but yeah. So what do we have here on Royal Blood? We do have a gateway expand, semi-score maybe expand, and it is not positioned as you would expect, very notably putting the wall, the would-be wall, nowhere near a wall. So the most that this does is trap a Reaper that tries to go through here. Not even though, really, because there's the gap in the minerals here, so it could still escape. So kind of traps them if you went that way too, I guess. But, you know, the Reaper could definitely get close enough to see this target. No doubt about it. So I don't know. I'd say the one benefit that this does, well, let's go ahead and say technically two benefits. But the first benefit that I was thinking of is that it is the closest possible position for your probe to move and then get back to mining. And then second, there's a chance that the Reaper never gets far enough back to see that. So, of course, if you put your wall off here and you actually wall off the Reaper, well, you do give up a little bit of scouting usually, because then you also use that same first pylon to build your Stargate, your Twilight Council, what have you. So the second one can go somewhere else. But, you know, it's a give and take, I suppose. So it is possible that Byun would not scout that it's a Stargate. And so far as he is waiting, actually, for reinforcements off his factory expand, it's a little less likely with 2 Reapers and a Hellion. I mean, you really could force the issue, which apparently Byun is not going to do. Really wants to grab these probes. Already at 4, definitely going to get that 5th. And then, oh, not good target fire there from herO. Not that it truly mattered. Either way, a Reaper was going to get into the main base and scout that Stargate, specifically the Phoenix, as it has already been created. And that follow-up Phoenix also has been scouted, which, I mean, is nice confirmation that they really are going to go into Phoenix. So a total of 5 probes killed from the Reaper ain't so bad. Sorry about that. Wanted to make sure music wasn't playing. So proper response to the Phoenix. We got Viking Cyclone on the way. As usual, if there's something about the new patch that is worth talking about, I will bring it up. And, I mean, right here we do have the more microable Viking. That's not too big of a deal. And the Cyclone, its only change was with its upgrade, which you would rarely see in this matchup anyways. Not impossible, but pretty rare. And the point is, in general, actually, that would have been nerfed versus Protoss too. So you probably really don't want to get it versus Protoss. But the Raven, I think, is just going to be a standard issue unit now in this matchup, and TVT, it always has been, of course, and I don't think that's going to change. But for PvT, where it was maybe 50% of the builds, let's go with that. Probably even higher. I felt like it was creeping up even before the patch. Gosh, now I feel like it's going to be almost 100%. I feel like the Raven is just too good for two reasons. It pops out fast. It's cheaper now, too, so it really fits into your build a lot smoother. And all of the new maps, or almost all the new maps. This one, a little bit. The new maps have a lot of dead space. So the worst dead space... Oh, this is the one with a lot of dead space, actually. So the worst dead space is when you can fit something here to attack into two mineral patches, two mineral lines. That's kind of the worst one to deal with when it comes to dealing with harassment. So Oracle harassment or Raven harassment. But even just the kind of large area, they could come in here, they could come in there. It's going to be an issue. Now, obviously, with herO's build, actually going into Phoenix, you have an answer for that particular problem. But even without the harassment option being open for Byun, he still has this relatively cheap, fast-producing Raven. It fits into a build a lot cleaner that might live for the first push. And it is a might. I mean, Phoenix are really good at killing Ravens. So it kind of seems like there's even a bit of split as far as philosophy goes between the players. Some say, yeah, just get a Raven anyways. Again, even before the patch, they were saying that. And others say, if my opponent's going Phoenix, I really don't want to go for a Raven. The Koreans, in particular, seem really attached to the Raven opener. And I think it's just even more encouraged now with the fact that it's cheaper. So, yeah. It's... If it comes across the map, if it gets its own auto turrets down, anti-armor missile, interference matrix, what have you, it's still going to be very helpful. And it's going to come along with maybe a little bit more or a little bit faster with the build now having its inputted so nicely. Really would be great for herO to take that out of the equation, but that is for sure going to be healed up again. Byun's going to baby that one. Phoenix is going to have to look elsewhere for some damage. So far, it's actually been very good for Byun, who at some point killed her Phoenix, I guess, while I was talking nonsense. So that seems like a solid opener for our Terran. And they're still continuing to keep the Raven alive. Definitely not an SCV pool. The guy is getting a third CC. Or is he? Well, kind of big mistake right there. Not putting an SCV back on the third CC is going to really mess up Byun. Uh-oh. Well, that could be an issue. It is still an issue, but we'll focus in on the engagement right now. The Raven's still intact! Just kidding, it's not anymore. All it gets is an anti-armor missile off, which is still something, right? But it would have been much nicer if in some world herO did not protect the Colossus, and the two Colossus got interference matrix. That probably would have been a killer move, even with the shield battery overcharge. The two Colossus, way too important to it. Shield Battery Overcharge also been a little nerfed and is certainly something the Protoss are feeling when they play versus Terrans, but it is obviously more so a unit's structure that you don't want to fight into. So that pretty much stays the same, but if you did, you might be able to get away with it. So that third CC was finally given an SCV to build it, but that was a big gap. I mean, that was at least 30 seconds, right? So that should be pretty much an orbital and transferring over to the location of the third base already. So big stall out in the build order. That really is going to mess, I think, particularly with your double starport. No, he didn't go double starport. Why did I think he did? I guess I thought the moving barracks was starport. Anyways, it's going to mess with your Viking and Ghost production, since you really want to be on 3-base saturation kind of when you're getting to a decent amount of that. But we are getting there. It just was interrupted. Man, I'm going bonkers. I could have sworn there was a starport. Nope, there really isn't. Well, okay then. So single starport production, I mean, as long as herO is not ready to tango right now, then we're going to get to a solid Viking count. That's not too much of a problem. Just sucks about that third CC. Oh, ooh, herO's on 3 bases, trying to spot out, scan the area. Speaking of scans, finally takes out that observer. And pick off whatever it can. Really, I think its highlight role, Phoenix, is making sure he's not about to die. herO is jumping forward into a fleet beacon, which does seem a little greedy. His Byun is going to have at least one particularly good attack when he's maxed out. Maxed out, Ghost, Viking numbers fairly high. Not going to be hitting with 2-2 or anything like that, so the upgrades aren't going to be particularly impressive, but it still will happen. And if you're building carriers. That's a pretty bad position to be in. Phoenix count continues to grow. I mean, it's definitely going to be complicated. I am mostly worried about the supply gap. Can we have a situation where Byun just overwhelms the budding capital ship player? Phoenix, high in number, will tank a lot of shots from the Vikings. All I can say is that the Viking is more microable, so it is being displayed here. But EMP just hit those Phoenix, look at all of their shields. More EMPs going to be looking for the main army as well. And this is a lost, killed 4th Nexus. All that static defense has to be replaced too. But herO does technically survive, and he didn't lose, I guess that many units, really. So 7 Phoenix is quite expensive for sure, but didn't lose the Colossus, didn't let a bunch of Zealots run forward and die. I mean, I suppose it could have been worse. And I'm not sure Byun has... I mean, I wonder if he has picked up on the fact that that Phoenix count has continued to grow. And if that would be, then, very clear that it's going to be going into potential Fleet Beacon. But the Fleet Beacon really was only for the Phoenix upgrade, so it's actually the first time that I've seen Protoss do this. Nonetheless, I'm always a bit surprised by it, and it should eventually lead into capital ships, and we do have that carrier on the way. So he might have also picked up on the range. Still a rare upgrade in this matchup that perhaps Byun did not. I don't know. But he's going to figure out quick that there is a carrier on the way. This drop into the main base is going to literally see that. And also take out quite a few Phoenix before it goes down. EMP hits, the Marines start to focus fire, and how many Phoenix are we at lost now? 4 additional from this drop, which actually, I mean, all things considered is maybe not that bad. The probe count, though, also going down. 19 probes were killed, the scout on the carrier production, the depowering of some of those buildings, and then, yes, the entire army being out of position. All of that is way more impactful, and it's going to be another kill on a 4th base Nexus. I mean, I don't think herO can actually get such a perfect army that he can survive on 3 bases indefinitely, right? That is not actually a true end goal of StarCraft 2. Okay, I got to the perfect 200-200 army. You literally can't do anything against me now. That's hopefully not how a lot of games go. So even if herO were to get maxed out with however many carriers he was hoping to get, it still doesn't mean that Byun has lost his timing, has lost his moments. With plenty of moments in the future, as he is clearly bullying herO. herO is constantly forced to react, to sacrifice, to live another day. And Byun is just thriving, man. He's got a 4th base as an orbital. That confident he is that it's not really going to be about harassment. 5th base is on the way too, and his army is now consistently positioned in this forward play, so herO can't even reach out to get even a sneaky Nexus. Another drop into the main. It's especially easy when you have all these scans. You're seeing the Phoenix being pulled to the left. Well, clearly there's something over on the right. And herO is going to lose more units that he can't really afford to lose. I mean, he's really at a place where he can't afford to lose anything, and now he's losing a lot. The jump on the Disruptors. Balls of steel right here from Byun. But that was also one of the freer gimmies that a Protoss is going to give you in terms of dealing with Disruptors. Them by their lonesome, getting EMP, getting focus fire down. A pro is especially going to pick up on that. And now we have an 85 supply gap, as the main base is still under threat. All these Marauders killing all of these important buildings, and herO, well, bit off more than he could chew. Played a more defensive game than I expected from him as well, so not typically the herO style. And I'm not going to say that he was, wholly uncomfortable with it. Sometimes you can really tell when a player is uncomfortable. I don't think he really plays to his strengths, and it certainly did not intimidate Byun at all, who handled that very well. GG. Game 2 is going to be on one of the more unique maps of the new map pool, Neo-Humanity. In the top left, we have herO. In the bottom right, it is Byun. So this and Altitude, I believe, are the 2 unique maps. Altitude, it's got its El Naga Destructible Rocks situation going on, but even its terrain, its innards being the kind of crisscross on the water, I think that's... I mean, it's not exactly out of this world unique, but it's kind of unique. Neo-Humanity, probably the most unique one. Doesn't have that dynamic, the Xel'Naga Towers, but it does have Xel'Naga Towers, which at one point was default to literally every single map in the map pool. And now, there's actually a point worth discussing. Many maps do not have Xel'Nagas. It still has destructible rocks, which have really, not destructible, collapsible, which have really come back in this map pool. I don't believe last one had any collapsible. That's the ones you kill and they collapse and you have to kill them again. And then it has gold minerals, but not in the way you're necessarily anticipating. Gold minerals to mine out a pathway to the third. And then it does have a Rich Vespian Geyser in a forward position. It's just really weird. The way that it even plays out, kind of how you move your army. Personally, I'm very uncomfortable on this map, and the kind of brightness to it, in my opinion, does not help me be more comfortable.
Credits received. Thank you for your monetary support.
Thank you, Bahamut Gaming, for the raid, as well as Anonymous for that tip. 545. Nice. Thanks, guys. So, Neo Humanity, I don't know where to really place it. I think it's going to be pretty bad for the Protosses versus Zerg, I think. But versus Terran, I guess it's still on the larger side of the maps. And there are some open spaces, but still some places to abuse chokes. No. In a best of 5, you're already going to struggle to really get rid of, I suppose, all of the potentially bad maps. But Neo-Humanity? Oh, I guess I'm just going to be biased against it. Well, Byun playing a very well played out macro game last game could have been even a little bit better if that third CC had immediately gotten an SCV on it again. That 30-second difference might have actually snowballed to a 60-second, 90-second earlier GG timing, you know? That type of thing. But it didn't matter so much that Byun threw the game. Definitely not. Played it cool, calm, and collected against someone who was, I mean, being tech greedy, basically. Trying to get up into those capital ships, playing a fairly unorthodox style, and one that I, again, personally do not believe really plays to his strengths. Now, that's me talking a lot on behalf of herO, who identifies his own strengths and weaknesses, but yeah, that's just one woman's opinion. I much prefer his games where, you know, yeah, Phoenix Colossus, that still can be fine, but then playing more into a typical game afterwards, and then any type of Twilight Council opener is A+ for me. This is how I've always enjoyed watching PvT. First it was Zest. Dear old Zest, out in the military now. Now it is herO, back from military, and he'll never leave us again. Ever. He'll never go out for cigarettes. It is going to be a 3 gates opener. Nope, 4 gate. There we go. 4 gate opener. I did pause, just waiting for that potential. And there it is. 4 gates coming out from herO. Let's actually check how 4 gate abusable the map is, though. Is it, though? So, some of the ways that a 4 gate blink can be abusive is that is now officially what we're kind of waiting for. A Widowmine drop is going to occur. That might get some damage done, but really we're waiting for the 4 gate. You know, one, how big is the main base? So how much can the Stalkers jump up away from potential safety tank fire? Because you don't want to have the tank just out willy-nilly. And then how much can they maneuver around, again, any of the tank defensive positions? Then on top of that, how many Stalkers can jump up at once? Like how big is the jump up area? And then the other thing is how much they can abuse jumping up and then attacking into the natural. So I'd say those are the 3 biggest things. I'm sure there's other things that I haven't really remembered. But the especially third one, I do not see being particularly good in this map. Definitely not. You'd have to jump up here, jump back down, and then way around, and even a little bit more to finally hit this bunker, which the natural is quite a ways back from its choke point. So, well, really TLDR. I'm not a super big fan of this build on this map, but it's not the only way that a 4 gate works, right? Some Terrans are uncomfortable playing against it, and some straight up misidentify it. Some see it and usually are good against it, and then just don't build tanks. Not trying to call anyone out. That has happened. So, right now, seems like a solid setup. 2 bunkers. Byun clearly knows to expect this. Tank is a bit far back. Oh, nice Adept to tank the first shot. The tank is still going to get a shot, but maybe it could have been 2. 10 probes go down to the Widowmine drop. I said that might do some damage, and it definitely did. And this is, even with the Widowmine still alive and pressuring, and we have the jump into the main base, and there is a lot of space. So that's one good thing about this. There's a lot of space to maneuver here, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. The tank is actually maybe not going to be enough. You know what? My question is, why didn't he already have a second tank? I might actually go back in the replay and watch this, but I'm pretty sure he's supposed to have a second tank by then. Second tank only now pops out. And that could be what causes this to snowball. I mean, basically, when anytime a tank does get destroyed, it should be like instantly replaced. And hopefully, if you can, even, you know, have the tank here so it gets a shot off. But once you're out of tanks, it's not a very good game for you. The bio count's not particularly high either. So the SCVs had to be pulled and had to sacrifice themselves. 20 of them went down. And this does seem to be working for herO. Not quite game over yet. Another tank's gonna siege up, get at least one shot. Gonna get multiple as herO chooses to take this a bit more defensively. 12 more probes go down. Okay, it's a real Slabanaka, as Kalaris would say. But might come down just who actually has units left at the end of it. 4 stalkers, 3 of them barely alive, escaping out. More stalkers in the Warp Prism, also barely alive. Both players still have enough money to actually continue producing everything they need to, but who is going to come out on top in terms of the army? This Marauder just pulling so much weight right now, kills most of the stalkers, but Zealots being warped in was an excellent change right there. They're so tanky, they're not going to go down fast at all, and they're going to obliterate those SCVs that have to be pulled into this to help out, and that might do the trick. herO has another 600 minerals in the bank. It's going to use it for 4 stalkers. Now that the SCVs are almost out of the equation, single focus firing is going to be really important. Great grab on the medevac. And maybe you can grab some of the Marauders too. Tries to, has to trade out a little bit, but these are very small armies. Both of them have been replacing their workers as we go. This time around, herO pulls away from the probes from the Widow Mine, but still has to lose that mining time and lose a couple of probes. It's just never going to stop until the medevac is dead. Whereas Byun's bio count, I mean, it's starting to grow. Maybe. I mean, the stock count's also starting to grow again. Tank pops out. That's going to be a big difference. Every stim hurts the Terran. All right, we never have the starport actually producing. Can't afford it. And now the recall is going to happen. So I don't know how this game's going to go. Recall happens in no particularly clever way to try and get the... Oh, no, the medevac is gettable anyways. All right, so that takes care of that. And then 4 stalkers were warped in, not accidentally, intentionally, as they do still one-shot those SCVs. It's still very worth harassing. This is less, though, the map that is abusable by the backspace. So there's not as much room here to just park an Oracle, for instance, or a Warp Prism. They're definitely... I mean, there is definitely here, but to get out kind of hits those still terrain edges, right? So armies can still try and chase you down. It's a little less abusable. So you do want to be careful, but 4 stalkers and a Warp Prism, they got a lot of mobility. There's still a couple of weak SCVs that don't even need all 4 stalkers to shoot at them to get those kills, and Byun continues to be suppressed in the economy. He's not necessarily falling any farther behind, since herO's also struggled to consistently produce probes and keep them alive. But it's just consistent. It's been an 8-9 work or something like that difference for a while. 24 probes killed to 48 SCVs. Wow. So at some point, Byun must have been able to build up SCV counts again. But every time, the stalkers are going to poke in. Yeah, there's tank position now. With some of those SCVs being very weak. And a couple of Zealots could be a problem. Good jump forward with stalkers once again back on the offensive. They grabbed the tank, they grabbed the bunker. I'm assuming the second one was salvaged. And are even looking to grab a little bit more, some weakened Marines from all the stims earlier on. herO is only just now grabbing a 3rd base. It's about 70% done. Just keep that in mind. So we've hit that kind of cap of 2 base saturation for the Protoss, and now there's a long slog where they are waiting for the Nexus to be built up, and they're waiting to actually have probes put on there. Because the Terran doesn't have as much of a problem anyways. They could lift the main command if they had to. And their army type is also very strong, right? So every time they get a production round, it's just kind of almost like it's better, basically, than every time the Protoss gets a production round. But then the Protoss, with the superior economy, let's say more like a normal economy, actually, like a normal PVT has occurred here, might be able to build enough to go ahead and surpass that, combined with a couple of good force fields, a Guardian Shield, a Shield Battery Overcharge, of course, a bit of a surround with the Zealots, focus fire with the Blink Stalkers, buying time. Like, there's so much that a Protoss can do. But if we're talking about kind of equal economies, with mules accounted for, right? And with that same economy, both armies get built up. I mean, the Terran army is usually pretty freaking good. As long as it's got its perfect trifecta of Marine, Marauder, Medevac. Medevac definitely has to happen. So, Marauder slow is in here. It's a bit of a bummer against the charge lots, and the upgrades were not started nearly as fast as they would have been in a normal PvT for either player. So that's not an effect, but Bio with a decent number of Medevacs, that is pretty powerful stuff. And we're not getting any better on the Protoss' side. We're not going into robotics technology. We're not going into a lot of upgrades. Finally starts up their own +1 attack and a robotics base. So we're starting to add those on. But if Byun ever feels like he can push out, it's going to be very tricky for a herO to hold on. I actually kind of like what he's doing, though. While it's still a little intimidating, while Byun is still pinned at home, he's going to go ahead and grab a 4th base. I mean, he started that probably as this 3rd base was finishing, even. So that's almost done already. And I do like that a lot. And then maybe he can kind of thread the needle correctly like a Zerg player, where you're droning. Okay, they're attacking me. Bam, make a bunch of army units. Might be able to do that. Byun just trying to get up his 3rd base after all, so. He's gonna get that secured, get into his ghosts. And if he waits for his ghosts, then we're gonna have 2 Colossus probably with their extended thermal lance. herO, so good at making the Terran be concerned about things. The Stalkers being a bit of a threat on the front lines, more than you can expect, eventually are pushed back. I mean, it's kind of the dynamic that's supposed to happen. They're supposed to run away at some point. We got the Warp Prism attempting to go into the main base, then just going into the 3rd. Might be caught out. Reinforcements and the returning army not going to be caught out. At least, yeah, even saves those Zealots. And then on top of all the things I just talked about, there's also a little Zealot run by ready. So anytime Byun thinks, okay, I'm finally ready to go, let's move out, that's exactly when like all 3 triggers are pulled, or definitely 2 of the triggers are pulled, the Warp Prism and the Zealot harassment, and then Byun has a lot more to worry about. So here you go. Exactly displayed like I'm a prophet. And it's just so annoying. I mean, technically, Byun does not have to pull back entirely to deal with this, and he does split up his army, as he should, because he really does need to apply some pressure. But then the other thing that a Terran player would have to worry about, right, or anyone, is where do I need my focus to be? And if you have to split your focus, you better be doing it wisely, basically. So Byun now cleared up the run-bys. I think he cleared up the Warp Prism as well. Yes, indeed. Can focus entirely on this push. But it's been a few minutes since I talked about that power dynamic, right? That growth. And in those minutes, we had the 4th base almost saturated, static defense built, Colossus #1 out, Colossus #2 joining in the nick of time, and an upgrade at least done, although Byun will still be ahead in upgrades. So it's a bit of a different story, right? The Bio army also continue to get better, and Ghosts are now better when they first pop as well, right? But still kind of even footing and come down to engagement type. Well, this Colossus, these Colossus are kind of being lazy. Not exactly how you'd want them to shoot. A single Marauder on the left side took away so many swipes from the main army on the right. That was in a choke. That's exactly where we want the Colossus to be focus firing, and the force fields less so divided the army, more so kind of just made Byun pull back temporarily. Maybe that temporarily is all that herO needs. Gonna try and repower at least some of the static defense, get a shield battery back up, deal with the Widow Mines left behind, since there is no observer. Had to get a little clever about it, but thankfully there's no armory. So once they pop, they're dead. And then get disruptors on the front lines. 3rd Colossus joins up, Sentries are rebuilding energy, Immortals getting back their hardened shields. And we still have a very close game indeed. herO might have dipped a little bit lower in supply temporarily, but did not actually get a breakthrough moment. When the shield battery was gone, the Protoss army was EMP'd, and there was just enough bio to push forward. Those force fields probably stopped that particular timing. And now upgrades are going to be evened up, +2 to 1-1. Disruptors rallying at this particular junction is a bit problematic for the Terran, though. So disruptors are always going to change the dynamic. But especially if you are the now in-control Protoss, oh god, are you though? Byun jumps on top of clearly an unsuspecting herO, and only 2 disruptors try and buy some time. They don't really get particularly good shots as Byun was aware of them and pulled back. Now that he knows that he's the only 2 disruptors, he's going to chase after him. A third one comes in from the left side. Is he going to get the herO shot? Nope. Not at all, not even close. Just kidding. So we're losing almost all of our Colossus, all of the disruptors as well, left with a okay gateway army. It's not really one against bio armies, especially one that is still locked and loaded with more EMPs. Shield body overcharge might save the day temporarily, but Byun has netted himself quite the victory in regards to resetting that robo count. So if he can continue pushing the issue, then there always will be a vulnerable moment where, you know, there's no disruptor shots. There's not enough disruptors. If only Byun could have also fit in an armory and started a +2 attack, and I think he'd be golden, but it's certainly missing that. He's once again on the retreat, just the mass amount of zealots forcing that micro to come down. That is exactly what Byun's pretty good at, microing. His medevacs are also getting a little dry. I mean, there's been a lot of action. Good focus fire on that disruptor, but caused him another stim. I mean, look what that stim did. Now we're in the orange and red instead of any greens or yellows. EMP hits the sentries, okay, sure. But that army is now so weak. The Stalkers are trying to one-shot some of these Marauders. The Immortal definitely, and Byun is still trying to pull back. I think he's very wary of that fact that his army is injured and bruised. And he's probably not exactly sure how quickly herO's going to be reinforcing. So far, there hasn't been a Warp Prism, but there could be one at any moment, or more Disruptors, of course, as well. 4th base, another orbital for Byun. Oh, no. It is not. It is his main base lifted. Just kidding. So that's usually a sign of desperation, and it certainly is going to make it a weak point as the game continues. That time around, the Disruptors were good. Excellent pickup from Byun to salvage the situation, and it actually hit a couple of Zealots, more so than they did the bio. But is it going to be enough right now on razor thin edge here? As both supplies looking very, very similar. Upgrades similar. Army supplies similar. 1 disruptor, 2 disruptor will go down. SCVs are pulled into this. There's only 1 more disruptor and it does not have a shot. EMP helping against those zealots. The SCVs will give their lives for the cause. But perhaps it'll be enough to actually turn the tides. Or maybe it's just enough to hold on. It seems like it's only enough to hold on. 18 SCVs dead. Remember, that's not really a 4th. It's his 3rd lifted. So yeah, triple mules, but not quadruple SCV production. And it is a sign of, weakness. I talked about that earlier, right? Now having Planetary Fortress, it's also a sign of kind of like exhaustion. You know, the Terran is in trouble. They have pulled the SCVs into me. So unless there's equal things happening back at home, like earlier on in this game, unless I'm also losing probes, then I know that I can kind of bide my time here, that I can take the smarter choices because they are desperate. Now, if that SCV pool had traded really well. Oh my god, every time, Byun, every time. Then maybe Byun even pushes back and then kills a 4th base. And then it really does get kind of weird again. But it wasn't enough to do that. So Byun's just going to try and make it work with the army that he has. Again, no further upgrades on the way, just adding in the Ghost while he can. Can't really afford too many more Vikings. I mean, technically he can afford the Vikings, but he can't get a lot of them very quickly. No double starport. So Colossus production, again, is problematic. You just can't deal with them. It's just almost like free damage for the Protoss. And then, yes, disruptors. I'll always keep that bio army pulling away. Well, theoretically, anyways. Wouldn't mind certainly being a big help against the zealot numbers. Yeah, at some points, those zealots have been quite tricky. Wouldn't mind could have changed some of the earlier engagements. Any Vikings that popped out just died. Colossus are a little vulnerable as the pullback happens, but even as Byun tries to jump on top of that, he kind of gets punished. There's still enough damage output from the rest of the army of herO. And even if he did lose the Colossus, it'd be too great of a trade for Byun, who is just really running out of steam. I think that is now very obvious. 22 workers down. Army supply is still kind of similar, but never getting any great position. Not good enough to do return economic damage. And herO is on a 5th base at this point, so even if he made a whoops-a-daisy and had to give up his 4th, as long as he didn't also give up his army. Like, he could give up one or the other and maybe recover, but definitely not both. I don't know if this is going to be the last hurrah. Byun is certainly a good person to put in the dictionary under Terran. It's like micro and persistence. What's the word I'm looking for? Like scrappy. you know, making do with very little. I think Byun is there. There's a picture of Byun, but that sometimes does teeter over into a little stubbornness. I mean, not quite a fantasy GG, but sometimes the signs are pretty obvious. I would say this game's still not obvious. Absolutely, Byun could still potentially take a good engagement. Once again, grabs the disruptors, but we're missing an extra element to a lot of these engagements over here. We have no type of surround going on. It's always, frankly, like almost one-dimensional. Going through this singular choke, herO can always kind of gauge it correctly. You add in a surround of some type, if you could, and that could really change up how the engagement happens, but yeah, it's really difficult to set up. I mean, there's not exactly that many Terran units to even get an effective one. A lot of it's in medivacs. And then I'd say when the army gets kind of chonky with a decent number of zealots, a little less effective. If the army's like basically pure Blink Stalker Disruptor, that's exactly what can get you back into a game. The downside of zealots is that if you are kind of in this back and forth tug of war, they often just look useless. They get microed against and die. Gun on herO to wonder if there's anything else going on as far as the economy goes. Like, why is this guy still alive even, maybe? Does check, it was the natural lifted. So still a very, very desperate Terran, but Protoss, you know, you could really argue, I mean, I'd be totally fine with that. You could really argue that herO is pushing one too many times. He maybe could have backed off a little while longer, not been the one to initiate, and had a larger supply difference when he does. But he is often the one pushing in. And maybe you could say that isn't perfect. On the other hand, had he not continued pressuring, then perhaps Byun would have built up not just a sizable army, but also get that positioning back in play, right? So it's not that herO's doing anything wrong, really. It's just, you know, maybe after a few of these engagements, you wonder if he had 20 more army supply instead. Byun is trying to get the middle base, which I think is quite amusing. Like, this one is obvious. If you're wondering, oh, did they sneak a base past me? This one is almost so obvious, it's not obvious. Because the Protoss army is really close to seeing it, but then it's so close to seeing it, why would he go check it, you know? Maybe Byun will get away with it. And that has given him a shot in the arm, man. Adrenaline now pumping through Byun's veins. The mule drop on this base. The SCVs finally getting to mine consistently. He even gets a decent start to an engagement while that was going on, and he has herO on the run, something he has been patiently waiting for like 8 minutes. He's finally pushing back again on this map. He's going to at least stop herO's 6th base from coming online, but I'm not sure he knows about the 5th. Technically, he does not. He might figure it out. At this base, this looks like a goner to me. There's nothing sturdy right now to help herO defend it. The disruptors come out. They got one shot, and that's it. Then it's going to be about chasing and chasing and chasing. Shield battery overcharge might be available, but is it going to save the day? One more disruptor. Gets a little bit, and not a whole lot. And Byun is, well, in a very familiar position, trying to push into this base with an overcharge active in a choke that he has to worry about. Force fields, Colossus, disruptors, also using it. Finally goes to the middle of the map and he's like, oh, there's a base here. So this did give Byun an adrenaline shot, but it's, I mean, frankly, it's probably all done now. Because yes, this zealot run by is taken care of fairly easily. This is going to be a real weak point. I mean, anything with an orbital, really, you know, is a weak point. But herO has noticeably lost out on supply. Byun, I mean, just a little bit of a quality over quantity situation. herO never really got up to that quantity that was just so much that it would overrun the guy. And kept taking those fights where it wasn't that different as far as the army supply. And then just continued pressuring for too long without necessarily perfecting the army or giving him that much of a buffer with the economy. So, you know, his bank has never been that impressive. And now he's lost all the time that you would have if you were still the one bullying the Terran. Byun just blitzes across the map. Nothing stopped him. Nothing held him up. He's going to take care of this 5th base, which has been mining for a little bit, but had a lot more mining to do. And is going to cut off the would-be 6th base yet again, too. Widow Mines and EMPs and snipes coming down. A lot of damage before the Colossus even get to engage. And Byun I mean, he's pretty good, but Disruptors are also pretty good. That was a good 6 Marauders right there, but here come the reinforcements. herO thought that was his ticket back into this game. The very bold blink forward, adding in Catastrophe for his Stalkers. And the Colossus, I mean, tuck tail and run. That's literally all they could do. They literally just ran away. That was it. Byun on the ropes for, I want to say 8 minutes. That's my guess. On the ropes. Waits for the perfect moment and breaks out and dominates this game. What a character, man. GG. Game number 3 is going to be on Ancient Cistern. In the bottom left, he is herO. In the top right, almost unbelievably, it is Byun up 2-0. Seems to be on death's door last game. And then refused to exit. It's like when you have to send the dog outside, but it's like snowing or it's raining or something, but it obviously has to go. And you're like, go! And it just looks at you. And you start like pushing its butt with your leg, and it just kind of backs up against you. It's like he was like that, but with death and the door. It was serious. Like herO was literally consistently pushing on him. Figuratively. And in-game. He was like, die. Die. I know you're about to die. You were clearly desperate. I just killed most of your SUVs, and you lifted your main orbital. That is pretty desperate for a Terran. And Byun said no. Not today. This is, yes, someone said grit. It's also a great word for Byun. Absolutely. herO, I would say, also does have some of those moments. You gotta give him both a fair analysis. For Byun, I would say very rarely teeters over into fantasy GG. For those who don't know what a fantasy GG is, maybe you've heard the term, don't know where it's from, or you haven't heard the term at all. It's a bit old at this point. There used to be a Terran player named Fantasy who is actually way more famous in Brood War than he was in StarCraft 2, but he did play both at a high level. And he would leave games comically late. I mean, just like, woof, okay, buddy, calm down. Stop wasting productions time. Like that type of late. Like 180 supply to 40, and he's microing 2 vultures. He's like, no, I can do this. So we don't really have a player that is known for that bad of an exit timing. And these 2 players are certainly not close to it. Certainly not. But I would say that of the times that I remember people tapping out, there's a lot of games that I cast. These 2 sometimes can be a little bit more, we'll say stubborn. We'll use the word, even though I'm not sure it's exactly accurate. They are also, not coincidentally, the ones who do often make the comebacks happen. So, you know, some people argue that they should never leave games, quote unquote, early because a comeback can always happen. And my response is like, if your history of comebacks is extremely limited, then what are you really doing? But if your history of comebacks are plentiful, then I guess, yes, I can't really argue with you. And that does sometimes happen with these 2. herO's had a couple of games where he's like, I got 6 Stalkers versus 50 supply of Marauders. I can do this. And Byun ditto, but... Let's talk about the openers for a second. Another 2 Reaper Hellion opener, similar to the first game. Off that factory expands. And we do have a normal opener from herO. Although he is going into a robo, so a little less than normal. Not unheard of, just a little less. I'm also noting he's still at 2 out of 2 on both gas geysers. Well, once again, gonna start with 5 probe kills. This is so far similar for Byun for that first game, which he did win. This robo opener could be going just in Colossus. It's very boring. I'm gonna label that for you guys. No, you don't understand the complexities of it. Yeah, okay. But it is definitely different, and the argument's kind of like it's very safe, but you know, almost too much. Like there's still abusable things for it, and I would still say that as far as dealing with drops, can be a little bit more difficult depending on the map, especially, and then just kind of the options that a Terran has against it, unless you're setting up for maybe some type of Colossus push, like one of those tricky types of openers. But I'm talking a lot about Colossus, and there's 0 Colossus on the field. There's 0 robotic space. So maybe it's not. A robo opener into a 3-gate. So another thing is kind of becoming popular again, I'll say. Popular is a strong word. Something is happening again. where we do have... Okay, Byun is actually doing a drop, so let's see what this does first. Before I talk more about herO's build. Yeah. Oh, he's not going to go for the probe kills there. I thought they would have gotten at least 4, but... Oh, right. Okay. Well, he thought there'd be a bad split. herO splits rather well. I do believe that is a totally untargetable area. Yep. Observer, by the way, if herO pumped out so fast, it's getting a lot of free vision right now, is, I think, barely caught the glimpse of that Liberator. It's certainly seen the setup here. Now, this could be defensive, you know, 2 tanks defensively. But it is moving across the map, and herO did see that. Okay, so I'm going to have to really quickly just mention that there is now a sentry opener. That's all I was trying to really get to. Is that there's now a sentry opener that goes for a lot of gateways. It seems really greedy, but because you get such a fast scout, you can kind of change it on a whim. It only is really weak to some very, very early stuff. But we'll talk about that later, because the push is coming. At the end of the day, this is not any of the things that I was thinking about. It's not the robotics bay follow-up. It's not the sentry opener. It is literally just robo for 3 observers, and then basic gateway units. And the Immortal gets pumped out as he sees the attack incoming. Liberator, very effective. 5 probe kills, decent amount of lost mining time. Byun decides not to go for the push.
All hands to battle stations.
Which, I think actually, I mean, it might sound weird because we don't give a lot of credit to basic gateway units. But I do believe that just with, basically I think what happened here, it's still so tight because really Planestalkers are bad. I think what can happen is that if basically one player produces units consistently and the other one, you know, is reinforcing or doesn't realize that their opponent's been preparing for them, they're going to run into a lot of trouble. And I think that's kind of what happens. herO arguably overstays his welcome, tries to get that tank, Master Pair saves it, and then also losing 10 probes now on his side of the field. He's a bit all over the place. But the real kicker, the real question mark is herO's build. If all of this was going all over the place, but he had Blink to utilize, or Colossus to get to, you know, there'd be a very different analysis going on. But instead, it's plain Jane herO. Yeah, and as I said, the only thing that really gets tricky about it is that they do make a lot of units. Whereas the Terran units, you know, they're also fairly basic, and they're really reliant on the higher technology, such as a tank, which if you can focus fire down with an Immortal, a Warp Prism, and a handful of Stalkers, then basic bio isn't exactly much better. So we have seen a few metas in StarCraft 2, where kind of more basic pitch units from the Protoss shock and awe a Terran player, and it's honestly kind of embarrassing to lose to. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Back when Flash was playing this game and facing Parting a lot, Parting loved to basically basic 4-gate him on 2 bases. And if you didn't pull your SCVs preemptively to repair your bunker, you would die. And you felt like an idiot. Because it's just like, if you do, it's just, you know, it's like no problem. So, yeah. This is kind of reminiscent of that. We finally had a Twilight Council added on. Not a robotics bay. And then it went right into a Dark Shrine and charge. I mean, just a very interesting way to play. Raven harassment's going to continue being annoying. No Blink to really stop it. And probe counts, work counts on the other side have gone down a little bit. In total, herO has lost 22 probes, so it's been worse for him. But he has been producing off of Triple Nexus for a while, too. So it's now a 7-worker difference. Kind of what you want. Is he gonna go right into DT Blink? Do it. Oh my god, he does it. Oh my god. This is why herO is so great. This is why he's so great. Also, check this out. His Observer has been over the army, of course, the entire time. But again, he has no Blink, so he can't truly kill it. Oh, funny. This is what really angers you about not getting Blink. I can tell you that much. And this does not count. The other Blink is on the way. By the way, ever notice these are faces? Well, now you do. All 3 are different faces. You're welcome. A couple SCVs just went down to Warp Prism harassment, which until a Viking pops out, there's not technically something, you know, anything you can do about that. It's kind of not worth continuing to just poke and prod, though, right? On the Warp Prism side. just to literally poke in with a zealot and pick it up and run away. Not nearly as destructive as a Wood of Mine drop, which can be set it and forget it and potentially do big damage, like 10 probes, which is what's happened. And at least one more by the looks of things. Could have even gone for a stalker, that would have been pretty good. Observer's gonna see the incoming army. What does herO have? Charge, 3 Immortals, a Warp Prism, and a single Archon coming in. DT Blink isn't prepared, and the amount of DTs that he would have been able to get at the last second is very low, so that definitely would have been worth leaving that as DTs. And even though this still kind of looks like a basic army, its size is decent, and some of its quality is kind of good, actually. So force fields, you know, if more could have come down, there's only 1 sentry, would have been really sick. That was not particularly sick. Zealots from the backside gonna try and make up for what the initial Zealots could not. Archon about to get popped, and it did, and we've already lost 1 Immortal by the looks of things. It looks like Byun is headed towards a 3-0. Another Immortal pops out, but after its buddies have been deaded, they've been killed, and it looks like herO is indeed a goner. Do we have the emergency DTs? DT it, buddy. DTs. Come on, DTs. That's a very weak bio army. That army's gonna die, actually. This is gonna be a severely inefficient trade. Byun is gonna be forced to escape. That army was so damn low. The shield buddy overcharge helping out those stalkers. That absolutely would not have been worth it for Byun. He does go back and heal up a bit. Still gonna have a weapon or an upgrade advantage even as herO's weapons finish up. But that was a stop on the Terran push at the 4th base, which I haven't really talked about. The 4th base is up and running for herO. So that makes me feel a little bit better about his chances, but it's still 4th base to a 3rd setup for Byun, where the worker count's only a 4 worker difference, and technology is not on herO's side, as far as we expect from typical Protoss anyways. So I would still say this is a very good game for Byun. And I don't quite see, I don't know herO's plan is really gonna work. So Zest was experimenting with DT Blink as part of a core army. He didn't open up the way that herO did, but he was still experimenting with like a core gateway army. And he was experimenting with DT Blink, being, you know, the force fields, if you will. And it, if I recall correctly, it worked in 1 game, straight up flopped in 2 others, and then there was a game where it was kind of arguable whether it was good or bad. Like, you know, I think it would have, like, it was really good initially, and then the Terran was like, oh, I know what you're doing. And then it became really bad. So I don't know where it's going to lie here, but right now we have DTs being used in the old-fashioned DT way, which is for harassment. Fair enough. Robotics Bay finally added on. Another upgrade on the way for herO, but still very basic army, dependent. Gonna come in with a little bit of a surround, although it might be completely mistimed if he's not careful. That shield battery is open for the grabbing, and exactly, Byun should take it. Now he kind of figures out what's gonna happen. He sees the incoming surround attempt. Stalkers only on the backside, however, are not much of a surround, especially after they've been EMP'd. But that's a lot of Zealots. They're coming forward. The Guardian Shield actually catching the Zealots too. That is one of the biggest benefits of the Sentry speed buff. Actually, its literal intention is to help out the Zealots a bit more. So we are having almost pseudo-buffed Zealots, if you will, I suppose. 1 DT hacking away in the backside has not been noticed quite yet, but the Widow Mines also, nice invisible little guys they are, getting some extra shots. That's going to leave the 4th base open, and herO realizes there's no way he's going to be able to stop that, and I would agree. 30 supply difference, Bio Army all nice and healed up again, and Widow Mines still active. There's not much that herO's army could do against that. Run by attempts, gonna try and buy some time, but was instantly denied by some reinforcements, so the most they can do is take out the missile turret, no doubt planning on warping in a DT eventually. Probes are cornered, Widow Mine still popping off, and herO is still in a whole heck of a lot of trouble. He's also about to be severely outgunned yet again, as his upgrade finally evens up with his opponent. He loses yet another observer, so he still can't see the Widow Mines. And Byun is going to finish 2-2 in about 30 seconds. DTs are in 3rd base. Took out the missile turret, and what happens? Of course this happens. I'm a little surprised Byun didn't think about it, but there's a lot going on. So he is not prepared. He's going to lose 8 SCVs. He's going to have to refocus on them at least temporarily. And that is going to push him away from ending herO's life. herO now able to collect a couple of disruptors, a single Colossus, and finally clear out these little mines. Byun's army is still huge. 40 supply difference. Byun's 4th on location. Could be turned into a planetary. We are going to have an awkward scenario. Another observer just went down. I think that's what that was. Or a pylon, actually. It was probably a pylon. And herO, he was the first to notice that this would be a base trade. He decides to go ahead and accept it. He is going to go for the base trade. No recall on that 3rd Nexus. Probably would have been suicide anyways. He does still have the power of DTs, which are excellent to have in base races. They say never base race a Terran. I think that's really old school logic. I think that anyone can win a base race. And the best thing a Protoss can have in that situation is definitely some DTs. Disruptors are a double-edged sword. They need to be ultimately controlled very well, but if their opponent isn't controlled very well, then they get big shots. In that case, Byun was controlling very, very well. Demolishes herO's army, and Byun is going to get that 3-0. GG. All right, guys. So it is a best of 7 out of best of 5. They tricked me once again. So things are not over yet. herO can make the comeback happen. The bottom right of Babylon, it is herO. And in the top left, we have Byun, who so far is on fire. herO tried something really weird last game, and I guess I could kind of see how it was supposed to work out. You know what? I take it back. I don't think it could. I mean, obviously there's some way that it works out. herO just doesn't do anything, you know, on a whim, as in just one day decide, I'm going to do a build that doesn't make any sense and has no logic to it. And that's not something he's going to do. But I would say that I really didn't see potential in it. So the only reason I think it even got a bit topsy-turvy is because Byun pushed out. If Byun had just built 2 tanks, said, I don't know what this guy is doing, stayed at home, did his regular macro build, then I think herO is still in a really difficult position. On the other hand, if Byun did never move out, and herO had seen that, right, he's an observer, and he's like, okay, I'm pushing out. I'm pushing out. I'm pushing out. Maybe he doesn't grab the Immortals when he does. Maybe he gets super fast saturation on 3 bases. Maybe even goes up to a 4th. I don't know. And then does go for a different direction. Is it straight into DTs? I have no idea. But it's something that I could see him doing. Him and Zest. I could actually see them doing that. Basically being greedy little mofos. Going up to 3 bases and kind of angering the Terran in the process. When Terran sees that and realizes you did it without a lot of protection, there's a lot of anger at it. And then it can lead to a kind of instant, okay, I'm going to go punish you for it, F you, which can backfire, as kind of evidenced by that last game. Or they say, okay, wow, really cool, yeah, okay, whatever, you got me, man. And then you just kind of play your own game. In which case, I could absolutely see, again, herO or Zest go mass charge lot DT blink. And it's, might look a meme. Might look very silly. Might not be effective. But there is kind of a reason to it. Unfortunately, with how things turned out, with a little more of that back and forth and a little more of that scouting and reacting going on, I'm not really sure how it was supposed to look, you know, ideally. It's one of those situations where you would pay a decent amount of money for someone to go find you that exact build order done without interruption. So you can say, okay. But it's such a unique, rare build order that's very unlikely. And of course, it's already different here. Stargate opener for herO. He did go Phoenix in the first game, which ultimately didn't work out well for him. Now he's going to go into an Oracle. He has gone multiple Oracle versus Terran before, more like I think what Classic kind of was doing for a little while. But if this is just one Oracle into Twilight Council, I think that's up herO's wheelhouse as well. And Adept's going to get 2 SCVs, maybe a 3rd, or a Marine is going to be their 3rd. Yeah, I mean, not the worst use of 2 Adepts, I guess. 3rd one tries to kill the Reaper, but it's going to get a full scout. See that a 2nd Oracle is on the way with the timing in the pro gamers' minds. Force Oracle is headed right towards that natural where there are not enough Marines technically to defend. 2 more are going to pop out. Actually, not anytime soon. Not anytime soon. That was a, I don't know, a big delay or No, just because they went down to 1 Marine, didn't it? And then 2 more popped out. Yeah, that was just nice timing. Oh, but the micro! Are you kidding me? Wait, did it actually happen? Was that a 4th Marine that just came out of nowhere? It's supposed to be 4 Marines to an Oracle. Might have been some missed micro. Alright, well. Here's another Oracle. Try and, you know, fix things. And again, shouldn't be enough Marines. But 2 more this time popped out. That's the timing you want on the Terran side. And the Oracle will have to pull away. So how many SCVs have been killed? 5 SCVs in total, 7 Marines in total. Alright, done. And Phoenix are actually going to be on the way after 3 Oracles. So, yeah, that's like we've seen anything so far. herO does like to change that up. Widowmine drop right through the center into the awaiting arms of Pulsar Beams, however. It's not going to go so well. Pulsar Beams, Revelation, Phoenix pickup, Stalkers were also positioned well. I mean, there's really 0 chance that the Widowmines would have gotten a shot, but would have been better to try. At the end of the day, I don't think he realized the Phoenix was on the way, so he thought he could get away. Had he known it was a Phoenix, he might have planned on sacrificing the medevac. Or waiting and trying to get a surprise on him later on. Hello. Now that he's lost that, we have herO in a, so far, the best position that he's had. Especially as the triple Oracle runs in and grabs a handful more SCVs. 1 Oracle does die. But 2nd Oracle is going to live. Marine, hello. Hello. Marine in the bunker might have given it a go. Not going to be able to kill it. Viking at least lives. And like I said, this is probably the best opener for herO so far. 14 worker difference as herO's 3rd Nexus is finished, starting to get saturated. Yes, he is missing some of the chunkier qualities of a Protoss army, again, like Blink or Robo units, but there is certainly time to get those. Byun's only now starting on his stim, also does not have a very impressive army, and his 1 attempted trick of going into a Banshee instead of a Raven has been revealed by an Adept getting into the main base, so that kind of sucks. I assume that's what Byun's plan was. Yeah. Now it's just like, what do you even do with it? What do you even do? Again, try to hide it off someplace. Now there's shield batteries in every mineral line. It's completely useless. Well. Certainly, 100% the best game for herO so far. We're going to start the comeback in this best of 7. Really got to start checking things preemptively. And it looks like, well, this is the shortest map, or not the shortest, it is one of the shortest maps in the map pool. It looks like herO's going to have plenty of time to finish up those important upgrades. Doesn't necessarily need Storm for the first engagement, so that might not be finished, sure. But if he's got force fields, shield battery, extra units, then it'll be fine. And Babylon is still short, even without the rocks broken down. It's, as I said, not short enough. Byun's not going to be catching him before, like, charge is done or something like that. That might have been brutal. With the rocks broken down, Byun's attacks from here on out will be very fast. There will be very little room to breathe. Storm's still not done, guys. Byun, as a Terran player, you kind of have to assume. Oh my god, those were perfect. Oh my god. Wow, I was not expecting that at all. Well, herO starts the comeback for sure. That's amazing. That is so funny. That is so funny. The thing is that I was about to say, Byun really shouldn't even play with fire. Basically, even professional Terrans who would maybe know very specific timings should basically always assume that High Templars as High Templars have Storm. It's way too dangerous to assume otherwise. And, you know, Storm isn't exactly a super common, like, very, I don't know, like, dictated timing in this matchup. You know, like a Widowmine drop between 4:30 and 5. And then if you see the opener, you could even pinpoint it down to an exact second sometimes. Storm's very much like, you know, sometimes it's gonna be this, sometimes it's gonna be that, and this. So you almost never see a Terran playing with fire there. I guarantee that Byun was cautious of Storm being done and thought that his micro would save him. but that's still a lot. I mean, there's mostly Marines. I don't know if that would really ever work. Basically, I'm saying Byun should not even been tangoed. He was wrong to enter into the dance hall. He should have left immediately. But those stasis traps are absolutely perfect. Oh, they are on the right side again. Nice. Welcome to game number 5 of this best of 7. In the bottom right, starting the comeback. Let me fix this. We have herO. And in the top left, as the blue Terran, it is Byun. So last game, Phoenix, I mean, kind of, you know, as an Oracle Phoenix thing into Storm, would have been very effective. So Byun would have gotten stormed to death as he unlocked from the stasis. You could time that up perfectly on herO's side. And it would have been escaping with very, very little. So there's a big reason as to why he would just go ahead and cut his losses and tap out. Even without that, though, he was already in a kind of bad game to begin with. Well, one of his worst games so far, anyways. So definitely all they combined, just like, yep, that's not going to work. All right, then. Time to leave. And now herO is going to try and go for a bit of a 1-2. You know, you get that swift victory, kind of more, probably easier than expected. Now you're going to go into something that kind of knocks them on their butt. Byun has been altering a couple of these games between Factory Expand and One-Rax Expand. He is once again Factory Expanding, however, which is a little less ideal for an aggressive Protoss opener to go up against. Not impossible to do something too, but certainly not going to catch someone by surprise as much as if they were, for instance, One-Rax Expanding into Instant Reactor, being super greedy. Not that that's super popular here. And Byun has not SCV scouted, because you don't really need to when you Factory Expand. So he will have a momentary miss-micro, perhaps, of the Reaper. As it goes, oh shit, there's a Zealot. And then the start of the snowball can come down to whether or not the Reaper scouts the Zealot. And scouts the Zealot, so okay, I don't know. You see a Zealot, I think you can kind of naturally predict that there's a proxy gateway. Honestly, you don't even have to scout it. But one of the reasons that it sucks is, right, you can start doing the damage on the Zealot. But it looks like with the Reaper, one, not knowing where the proxy is, so he doesn't know where the Stalker's going to come out. And you're microing your heart out against the Zealot, and the Stalker shows up, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm already taking damage while running home. It can be problematic. And then this probe was kind of more of an issue than you could give it credit. Probably was correct for Byun to go back, kill the probe, take out that pylon, and now try to add a reactor. The second thing about reactors, take a long time to build, and while they build, you cannot repair them. So technically, if you really were so desperate to wall off, you want to get a tech lab. But if you believe that you can hold on, the reactor's not actually going to fall, then this will be, you know, a better build for you. Looks like there's a bit of miss macro as his command center was later by virtue of his factory expand, so he just was so busy trying to micro, he forgot a supply depot. Easy fix with the drop, however, that could die. That would be a nice grab for the Protoss. Cyclone is out, and that is kind of the end, though. So no supply depot will die in this game. 2 SCVs go down. And Byun comes out 2 workers ahead. Doesn't seem particularly good for herO. No, it does not. And Byun really, besides that supply depot miss, really has not messed up his build all that much. He probably, you know, he has had to change it. He did have to go for high ground command center. He did have to add on a Cyclone as opposed to maybe going into a What Am I drop follow-up. Or, you know, he was doing 2 Reaper Hellion, right? But I'd be okay with this in Byun's position. You know, in terms of dealing with a factory expand there, I think you'd maybe have to, like, 1 Reaper into reactor, and then if you kill the Reaper and their bunker isn't done, so you keep on killing the SCV that's building the bunker. I mean, I think there's still a way to snowball, but that did not happen in herO's favor. At least he catches 2 Reapers, takes that backstab opportunity off the table. Cyclone is gonna dive. Maybe not actually. Just gonna grab the Adept and try and skedaddle. And Blink is definitely not gonna be done with the opener that herO has chosen. Twilight Council is here, but it is not upgrading at all, actually. So, mistake? Or... yeah, mistake. Pretty sure it's a mistake. If he was going to blink, he was supposed to get it. If he was going to go to charge, he could have gotten it. If he was going to go into a dark shrine, he could have gotten it. Nothing's happening with the Twilight Council. Still nothing's happening with the Twilight Council. This is the state of the cast right now. We are watching the Twilight Council do absolutely nothing. Zealot kind of just thrown across the map, I guess. Banshee's on the way, and this is something that Byun was kind of trying to be tricky about last game. Didn't really get to do it. He is sticking with it despite being scouted. Something did scout that cloak on the way. Still nothing on the Twilight Council. Yeah, he just must have forgotten to get blink. But he's still forgetting is the very disappointing thing. Maybe now, as he realizes he can't chase after this? Well, he's currently panicking because he has no detection, actually. That's, well, there's a couple big issues here. Sanchi's gonna go down. Oh, just before the shield battery was done. Observer will pop. Clearly, Byun knows that. He's gonna let the Banshee live another day while he sets up a either two-pronged attack with the double Banshees, one on each mineral line. Well, I guess he can't really do that anymore because shield batteries are available. Or double-pronged in that he goes for Banshee harassment and a push towards the front. Was just a push out to kill the proxy gateway, and now the Banshees can team up and go for probe harassment should they want to. He still has not gotten anything that's on the council. I don't want to tell you guys what's going on here. You get this thing for a reason. You get to go something else, and not just like, I mean, technically also something you need a Twilight Council for is +2 upgrades, but I can tell you he's not doing that either. So, you know, I really too try. I try to exhaust all options before saying the pro gamer has made a mistake. The pro gamer is not playing, it's a pro gamer. Pro gamer. Status. Hey, we finally have Blink on the way. Oof. Oof. That's painful. That's painful. herO can do so much with Blink, too. I mean, he clearly hadn't even tried to use it. Or, well, probably what happens is that he tries to use it, thinks, oh, it must not be completed yet, and then tries to use it again. So he probably did try to use it at some point in this game, but just not continuously, right? As soon as you keep on pressing that button and it never comes on, you look back and you go, oh shit. But, you know, if he had it, theoretically, when he first tried to blink, I think that a lot of other things happen here. I think he chased down the Banshees better. I think he gets on the map better. I think he starts picking off some of these Marines, of course. He tries to position himself to get a bit of a backstab. You know, there's tons of other things that can happen. This also sets back the timing of a Twilight Council charge, and has led to disasters all over the place. So the lack of Observer already caused the Banshees to do a decent amount of damage, but even this lack of Blink has further increased the chances of the Banshees getting more damage done, and they certainly have. You know, it's less of an instant punish here. It's a good example. And so you don't have your charge. It's going to be later. It's a fairly quick upgrade, so he might actually have that fit in before the next attack. But everything else has been thrown off because you took so much damage, because you were missing a lot from this game, because the opener didn't work out, and you mess up your follow-up. So you don't have enough money to really go into a lot of charge lots, so the charge is like, okay, I guess you have it, but you were really using it. Your storm's not as fast as potentially could have been with all the 6 gases coming down the Templar Archives. That might indeed be herO's plan. In a way, it worked out last game, I guess. And that is not as fast as it need be to help against this push. I think Byun has given herO a little bit more credit. I mean, you don't really expect the guy to not remember to get Blink. So I can explain some of the pullbacks. So while I was waiting on some of his own upgrades, you know, he's still perfecting his army. It looks like he forgot combat shields. Since Marauder Slow finished up first, I'm going to go ahead and guess that both players have forgotten something in this game. Byun forgot a 3rd supply depot. Byun bit late to his combat shields. But herO, way more impactful. That severely late blink. The proxy not really working out. And then I think this map can be particularly difficult to deal with a push up the middle. You know, so if you're not really primed and ready to go, you're really not ready to go. So easy peasy by the looks of things. In fact, the Immortals are even kind of left alone, so easily snipeable. While the Stalkers did position themselves, take out the tanks, they are now face to face with Bio Medivac, which they will take care of, but won't necessarily be trading too well on. Chase it down. Almost all the Medivacs, so there is that, but loses the Nexus. 26 probes, most of the army. Still taking damage to a Banshee, apparently, that has let the shield battery run out of juice. So you could overcharge to continue saving your probes, but then it just feels so bad because, well, you're supposed to be overcharging while defending your front lines. And this game is all but over. Oh yeah, a bit anticlimactic for sure. It's definition right there. GG's, Byun will win 4-1 in this best of 7. herO had a very brief moment of hope. Quickly dashed. Quickly.